This is a time of year up here in Sweden when we all start to calibrate for the darker half of the year. If there's sun, I try my best to find a good spot and sit in it for a while. I clear out the old energy from the house, sweeping away the dust and donating items I no longer need. I start to prepare foods that feel nourishing and rich, and even my mental state starts to change. As Libra season opens, it's a time of deeply committing to nurturing my sense of belonging in the world. As the nights get longer and some of my haunted houses like to come sneaking into the space left after sunset, I find myself developing new ways of enriching my sense of intuition and self-trust. While so many times Libra has been identified as a sign of beauty and diplomacy and people-pleasing, I find this to be a season of deeper authenticity and honesty. When the summer sunlight isn't shining on the world, who am I? How do I treat myself? What fears do I have? And can I let myself feel safe, even when the road ahead is unknown and full of events I can't predict? Can I find a way to be here in the world in a deeper, more honest way? What compassion do I extend to myself and to others? And can beauty be found in the shadows? The answer always comes back gently with yes. Hello, my beautiful friends, fellow space blobs, earth blobs, any kind of form that you are or feel connected to. It is so wonderful to have you here again in this space that I really create because I wanted to have a tender place in the world to tell stories, to feel connected, to feel that we can share in this whole process of existing here in this world. And that's why I get so excited to explore each season as it comes, each sign, each archetype, really take a deeper look at all of it and feel that nourishment and depth as we prepare for a new season. And Libra season is one of those seasons that I think always deserves a deeper look. Our pop astrology world is so invested in some of those more superficial stories, but Libra is one of those places where if we can really start to integrate it into our lives, can really help us to move through the world in a way that feels more authentic and much truer to who we really are. And as many of you who have been with me for a while know, I feel very strongly that it's important that we find ways to connect to each of these archetypes because they all offer something really powerful. They all offer a lens through which we can move through the world. They all offer ways to connect deeply to our intuition, our sense of worth, our sense of community, our sense of belonging, our sense of mysticism in a world that often feels mystifying. And so I'm very excited today to explore Libra season with you, get us set up in a really beautiful conversation. We are going to be looking a little deeper at what Libra really means, how to work with it, how to activate it in your life. I'll be exploring some of the themes we will be working with this particular Libra season, which happens to be a Libra season full of eclipse energy and release energy and new insight and intuition. I'm also going to walk us through some of the transits for this season and end with an intuitive conversation with some cards, as we do around here. So this is really just a nourishing, gentle conversation, wonderful for putting on while you are doing a creative project or going for a walk or relaxing or just wanting to nourish in. I hope that this chat today will offer some comfort and some depth and give you a little bit of soul food as we move into the darker half of the year, at least up here in the Northern Hemisphere. So let's get into it. Let's explore the beautiful sign of Libra and get a little bit deeper in here and get storytelling and get mystic, because I think this sign really deserves, this archetype really deserves a beautiful conversation. It just inspires me so much. So Libra is the cardinal air sign, which means that it is an initiator, right? All the cardinal signs are about how we take action, how we translate all our feelings, our knowings, our intuitions, and translate them into the world. And this particular cardinal air sign holds a really interesting and nuanced place in the whole system, the whole process of living here in this world. Libra is often represented by symbols such as the scales or the tarot card Justice. And even just looking at that tarot card of Justice, which is the number 11 out of 22 cards in the major arcana, tells us a lot about what Libra is really about, because that is the very center of the journey. And the more you look at Libran energy, the more you'll realize that that's the sacred place that it holds. It is this central axis point by which we move through life. It is the 7th sign of 12. And right as we enter Libra season, we are at the very center of our journey through all 12 zodiac signs. It is initiated by the equinox, when the light and the dark are equal here in our experience of Earth, our experience of moving around with the sun. And it's also just really about our ability to translate the hidden and the unseen world into the physical world. I think this sign also, because we think about it as this center point, right? The word that often comes up when we are exploring Libran energy is going to be balance. And I think sometimes when we hear that word, we kind of think about putting all the ingredients into a pot, cooking it down until it becomes some kind of grayish, blah consistency that we don't really connect with, right? Like sometimes when that word is used, it can feel very much like we just have to boil ourselves down to some kind of median consistency that kind of is an average that doesn't really do much. But balance is so much more than that, right? It is about being able to allow the hidden and the unseen world to inform the seen world, and vice versa. It is about an ability to communicate between different realms. And that's really what Libra is all about. It's the center point through which we are able to hold two things at once. We are able to hold our non-physical awareness, that expanded consciousness that sometimes we can tap into, as well as honoring the fact that we are humans, that we are in these bodies that are experiencing things as well. When we're really tapped into Libran energy in a healthy way, this allows us to hold two things that are true at the same time. It allows us to understand the past as well as be willing to move forward into the future. And because this is a sign that is ruled by Venus, it adds another layer to this whole conversation. Because a lot of times Venus will get put into that superficial category, as well as Libra. Both of these energies will often be put into the pretty diplomatic category. And that does it such a disservice, right? It makes it feel like it's not this interesting, deep, luxurious, powerful thing that's going on. But the thing with Venus and Libra both is that there's a deep dedication to making art through the experience of having to hold two realms, two ideas, two elements together at the same time. It demands that we both acknowledge that there are dichotomies and that those dichotomies have to eventually fold into one again, only to be expressed again as two. It's that beautiful meeting point of the 0 and the 1. And I think that the Venusian aspect of Libran energy is that desire to make this a beautiful experience, to care enough to tell beautiful stories, to care enough to try to translate the interesting layers that are going on. And I think that's what's so beautiful and inspiring about this energy. Now, of course, we hear a lot of stereotypes about Librans and about Libra energy, right? A lot of times when this comes up, we will think of things like people pleasing, diplomacy, just saying something nice to keep things, keep the peace so that nobody's upset. A lot of times we'll hear ideas around codependency and relationships and not knowing how to express ourselves except through relationships. And of course, those can all be shadow sides of an experience of being here in the world and exploring things. But it really doesn't speak to anything that's really going on with Libra, right? Because like I just said, this is a sign that allows us to sit holding multiple truths at once, sit holding multiple levels of our experience all at once. It allows us to do that without burning out, without exhausting ourselves, and allows us to honor the dynamics that are within our lives. I think though too, I just want to add a couple more layers on here. Libran energy is really about the experience of perception, the ability to see and be seen. And when I think about this, I often think about the physics experiments that have shown that the act of observing an experiment, observing electrons will change the way that their behavior shows up. Observation is a really, really powerful element in this world that we live in this universe that we live in. And I think Libra is the one that holds that principle the most deeply. So using our powers of perception, illuminating them, expanding them, practicing seeing ourselves, practice seeing those we are close to, practice seeing the world around us, the elements around us, and that element of perception, of the fact that in being able to perceive, we change our experience of the world, means that this is also a highly intuitive sign. And I know I've talked about that with Virgo energy being the intuition of the gut. And Libra, the next sign, is going to be the intuition of being able to really see. And finally, I think what's so interesting about Libran energy is that not only is it about having the ability to see and practice seeing, it's about knowing when it's time to take action and to translate what we know, what we perceive, what we can sense is very, very true for us, and be able to take action. And there's where that cardinal air energy starts to come in. There are a few specific themes that I think will be really helpful to sit with before we begin this Libra season that I just wanted to bring up here before we get into the transits. One of those is going to be, of course, vulnerability. This will be a season where a lot of us are going to be practicing being seen, being cared for, even when we're not putting on our perfect show. To be really seen means we're going to show ourselves when we don't have, all our pretty performances on. And that can be really, really scary. This is also going to be a season where we're learning to maybe see people in our lives, family members, close partners, even friendships from some new perspectives and finding some new compassion, as well as maybe also finding places where we're wanting to set boundaries, we're wanting to perhaps disentangle a little bit and just kind of taking an assessment of how that's feeling for us, where we're wanting to get closer and where we're wanting to disentangle. Those themes will be coming up, I think, really, really strongly during this Libra season. One of my favorite themes for this season that started to come through when I was sitting here with this is this idea of change, and that success, we often think about it, especially from the culture that I grew up in the US, we often think about success as doing something forever and it never changing form, it never coming to an end. And the pressure to keep and maintaining a specific skill set, a specific momentum, a specific form is so intense and so counter to what it actually means to be alive in the world. And I think that this is a season to maybe think about where, your visions of success, the ways you put pressure on yourself have to do with maintaining the same form. And instead finding some grace for the fact that success looks like change. It's going to look like changing forms. And there is going to be quite a bit of energy that is going to be asking for us to change forms, to just shift pieces around and not hold the same static position. So something to keep in mind. Another theme that I think is really powerful is going to be caring for our inner critics, our shadows, our scared selves. I know this is a constant for me. I'm always taking care of those parts of myself because they are quite loud in my case. But some seasons I think are really there for the compassion of taking care of those parts of ourselves, really looking at them, caring for them, bringing them with us, showing them it's okay. And I think those themes are going to be really powerful. It's going to be a great month for therapy. And I know that I am going to be calling up my therapist and having some really great conversations about those elements. So I think this is a beautiful time. So often, once again, we think of Libra as about the kind of pretty surface stuff, but I think Libra is actually where we understand that to be able to move out into the world, we also have to be able to move in. And vice versa, if we want to move in the world, we also have to find ways to be out there in the world. So this is a really beautiful time for integration and understanding and healing of past cycles when it comes to relationships and how we value ourselves. Also, I mentioned this already, but intuition is a big one for this Libra season. It's a really big one. And I think for me, this is about that translation of a knowing that we maybe have had for a little while into action steps and meaningful action, not just busy work, not just doing, not just filling up our schedule, but what action steps are going to feel truest for us. I think that theme is going to come up a lot. And speaking of that, if you're looking for help and you want to get back in touch with your intuition, I am doing a 4-part series. It is called Reclaiming Intuition, a Return to Your Innate Knowing and Magic. It's going to be 4 weeks over on Patreon. I'm going to be offering up a lot of ways to reconnect with it, give yourself permission, as well as some different intuitive lenses. So if you're looking for support this month, including incorporating shadow work, including incorporating your inner child, and including starting to have visions for the future, which is part of what the intuitive quality of Libra season is, I would love to have you there. I will be offering up a chat, exercises, journaling prompts, ways to connect with it, and just a really rich, delicious process. We're going to be hanging out every Friday in October, so I'd love to see you there. And finally, I think the final theme that I'm really noticing about this Libra season, it is a Libra season of eclipse action starting, this is a season of releasing and letting go. It kind of goes back to that conversation about releasing form and allowing change to be part of our success. That's going to be a really big theme. It's tender. We need a lot of care for ourselves. I think this is a season of deep care for ourselves. And that is done also through art, through creativity, through play. Not to get too serious, I think creating art, creating conversations, creating story is such a powerful way to do all of the things that I've just been talking about, and will be one of the avenues through which we enjoy this Libra season. So I just want to go through the big transits for this season and get us all set up for that so you kind of know what's ahead. So Libra season starts around the 22nd, the 23rd, right as that equinox is happening. The sun moves into Libra. And right away, the first week in, we have our full moon in Aries. Now, this is not an eclipse, but it will initiate the energetics of eclipse season. This full moon is full of really powerful conversations, and it is going to be a full moon that is about honoring the costumes and the heaviness we have worn, the performances we have worn, to get through life, to survive, to be accepted, to do all of that, and allowing energy cords and heaviness to dissolve. I will be chatting about that with you all very soon here, so keep an eye out for that chat. So we will be exploring that, and I will also be doing an activation for that full moon over on my Patreon that will really get us into how to release some of that energy. As we enter October, some really interesting things start to happen. Mercury joins us in Libra, and that's after quite a bit of a stay over in Virgo, where we had a retrograde in Virgo and all of that. So as Mercury enters Libra, we're entering into a season of really clear sight. There's going to be a lot of knowing. There's going to be a lot of aha moments with Mercury in Libra, and I think it's going to be refreshing. A lot of us have been ready for answers, ready for information to move through so we know how to take action steps. And I think this Mercury transit through Libra is going to help us so much with that. On October 8th, we have Venus also finally leaving Leo after 4 months in Leo and entering Virgo. So this also changes that energy. If you have been on the journey with me with Venus retrograde, you'll know that we have been going through this heart journey of recalibration about what we really want to be creating and sustaining in our lives. So as Venus moves into Virgo, we are starting to move with what we just learned. And that is going to be a theme we're going to see again and again with this Libra season, that it's time to move with what we've known, what we've learned about ourselves, what we've taken in, and getting comfortable with it. Then on October 10th, we have one of our outer planets beginning to move forward, and that is Pluto going direct in Capricorn. This is just going to be a check-in with how have you shifted and changed? Pluto will continue to be in Capricorn until January 21st. So as it moves forward, this is about allowing ourselves to be holding new forms and just incorporating that, getting comfortable with that, feeling more confident in the new forms that we are taking on. October 11th, Mars leaves Libra and enters Scorpio. And Mars in Scorpio, is very comfortable. Mars originally ruled Scorpio, so this is a natural placement for this sign. And for me, this is about getting into what truly motivates us. So many of us have taught ourselves to be motivated by all sorts of things from our family systems and from our culture, and force ourselves through all sorts of scenarios to make it work. Well, Mars in Scorpio is going to have us asking questions about how we force ourselves to do things, the force we use on ourselves, and how we can start to change the conversation. Scorpio is all about the subconscious. So when we have Mars moving through the subconscious, why are we forcing ourselves? Exploring the shadow, exploring how we put all those pressures on ourselves and releasing some of them. I'm really looking forward to that. Then we get into our eclipses. So October 14th, we have the new moon solar eclipse in Libra. And this is going to be quite close to the south node of the moon, Mercury. And this is going to be about themes that have to do with belonging and how we find belonging and connection. I will get more deeply into that. Never you fear. As soon as we get closer to that new moon and solar eclipse, I am going to be doing a whole conversation about it. So be sure to come back here. We are going to have an amazing chat about it. And I'm really excited to explore with you. And as we get close to the end of this Libra season, Mercury also enters Scorpio, adding to that deep subconscious conversation, deepening our conversations, giving us a little taste. And finally, on October 23rd, the sun will move into Scorpio. So we have a lot to work with this Libra season. I will be coming back with you for that Aries full moon, for eclipse season, checking in with how we're feeling as we move through. So we will keep writing this out together. I'm going to finish off our conversation today with our intuitive card reading. So I'm going to pull 4 cards, 1 card for each approximate week of this season, and just see any intuitive feelings that want to come through. Queen of Pentacles. While that is not a Libran energy, there is a sense of balance and nourishment going on there. I love that. Queen of Swords. That's very Libran in its own way. This is going to be such an interesting Libra season. I think for so many of us, we'll be seeing clearly how we have changed and kind of next steps, which I think is just going to be such a relief. Oh, 2 cards already wanted to come out. We have the Magician and the 3 of Pentacles. So beautiful. Yeah, you can kind of see this actually playing out here. So let's walk through this. Queen of Pentacles, we begin our season with a very grounding, intuitive card. This is an energy, often when I see Queen of Pentacles, of deep self-trust. This is somebody who knows that whatever may come in the future that she may not be able to see, that the right movement will be made, and just grounding into that nurturance. So I think this is a beautiful reminder to start this season by kind of affirming some of this skill set in yourself, giving yourself some grounding, giving yourself some nurturance. It kind of reminds me too, it's the end of Virgo season, right as we enter Libra season. So we are taking whatever gifts we've learned from Virgo season and bringing those with us. They're very relevant for Libra season. And then it's kind of funny that, the next queen is our Libran queen here, the Queen of Truth and Clarity. I love Queen of Swords because a lot of times she's associated with kind of the harsh truth. But the thing with Queen of Swords is there's so much relief in just getting to see something clearly, getting to set a boundary, getting to set an intention, getting to clearly understand what it is we are wanting or needing in our lives. And that honesty can feel like such a rush of fresh air. And I do think the last 3 or 4 months have been such a mystic experience. A lot of us have been exploring deep parts of ourselves, not really knowing how this whole process is going to coalesce and show us the way. And I feel like Queen of Swords is that relief of being like, I can see now. I can see what I need to focus on. I can see what it is that I've been really needing to do. I can see what conversation I've been really longing to have. And that clear energy is going to be very strong this Libra season after a season of a lot of much more mystic, hidden processes. And I'm seeing that really clearly here. So the knowing is strong. Now, the last two cards are really interesting. They speak to what I was talking about at the very beginning of this very long chat about Libra, which is that Libra is that center point where we translate a knowing into an action. And Magician is that action energy. Whenever we see this, it's like we take our intuitive knowing, we take that thing that we just know, and we put it out into the world. We move on something, we create something, we call somebody, we do whatever it is that feels really true. Now, the distinction here, right, with the Magician is this is not about just making a to-do list and forcing ourselves to do a whole bunch of stuff. The Magician is the powerful actions we take that we really mean. So we don't need to be rushing to accomplish it all this Libra season, but there is a calling here to start to take steps and to do it from an empowered place. That's why those queens at the beginning are so important. It's important to take some time to know, to sit still, to hear, and then move. And the Magician energy is very powerful for that. It also means that, Magician is generally a positive energetic, right? It's about being able to take action where maybe we have felt we couldn't before. Now, this is that kind of individual doing. It's interesting that the Three of Pentacles is coming into this conversation because that is about how we don't do projects alone. We don't have to do all our projects alone. There are other people who can give us skill sets, support, love, honor as we move through seasons of life. So it's a reminder as well that while we may be doing a lot of our own individual growth and realizations, it's okay to ask for help. It's powerful to ask for help. Libran energy is about relationship and how that improves our lives. It allows us to experience ourselves and as well as experience the world. So it's a reminder that ask for help, seek help, give help. This is a great season to do that, and just enjoying the collaborative feeling of being with other humans, other beings. It could also be, animal collaborations are great too. So it's just a reminder of that. And I think overall, these cards are very much about clarity of sight. I think we can see that. There's a vision starting to come in. After, I would say, this first 8 months of the year, 9 months of the year have been so much about the mystic journey of dissolving and change. There's something about new energies starting to really move through the body, move through our actions that is making this season really, really beautiful. So with that, I am wishing you all such a beautiful Libra season. I love this time of year. I know I've mentioned it already, but I'll mention it again, that I am doing the Reclaiming Intuition 4-week series over on my Patreon. And I really created it for anybody who's felt far away from their intuition, hasn't felt like they've been allowed to move via their intuition, has just wanted to feel connected, feel excited, feel juicy, feel curious again. Maybe you've gone through a season of really deep hardship or loss or confusion. This is really a series for that nurturance. And for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, this is going to be great for those darker months as we get into the darker, more soulful season. I'm really excited about it. It's something I've spent years thinking about, and I really am excited to offer that. And it's going to be to all my patrons. So whatever tier you want to sign up on. But of course, if you're in the upper tier, we also have our live Zoom calls where we chat about our process and how we're feeling. So it's really cool to be able to share live in real time together about how we're feeling. So I can recommend that as well. So I'd love to see you there. Obviously, also, I love it every time you're here. YouTube is such a weird landscape. Like, it has been such an interesting journey the last couple of years. So when people come here to hang out with me, it means so much to me. It makes such an impact. And I'm just so grateful for you all who hang out here. So if you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love to see you around. And if you have never liked or commented, I would love to hear from you. How are you feeling about Libra season? What questions do you have about Libra season? What questions do you have about intuition and what it means? I'd love to hear those questions as well. And of course, you can find me on Instagram or my website. So those are all the things that I have. I love you all so much. I will see you here again very soon for our Aries full moon. I'm very excited to explore that with you. I already have so many thoughts about it. So I will see you here very shortly for that. And I hope you have a beautiful Libra season, my friends.